Thanks for tuning in at Brackies.
Hello everyone and welcome to video number 6 in the How to Make a 2D Platformer course. Wow, it's been quite a while since the last one. I've been having a bunch of audio problems, but they should soon be over with. I've come up with a temporary fix until I get them solved. And also, if you want to follow my progress in making videos and should something come up, always write on Twitter, so please go ahead and follow me at BrackiesTweet for more updates. So let's get into today's video. As you can see, we're going to be doing a bunch of fixes. First off, we're going to fix the characters' colors because there's something wrong with those. Then we're going to change the pivot of the arm. Then we're going to set up the parallaxing to work with our tiling script, which a lot of you have been writing me about. It should be an easy fix. And then we're going to fix the problem with collision where we get stuck on certain colliders. So all of this we're going to do in the visual editor. We're not going to be scripting today, so it should be pretty easy to follow along. Cool, so let's get started. Let's first off open up Unity and fix the character's colors. So if we have a look at the character here, select the player and focus on him, you can see that some of the colors here are not as they should be. They're pretty washed out. And that's because last time when I did a video, I forgot to change what is called the color compression here, the color format to 16-bit. So let's select the astronaut sprite sheet, and instead of hitting compressed, let's change this to 16 bits. This will be pretty accurate representation of the colors, but if you want them to be completely accurate, you can always do true color, but I think 16 bits is going to be just fine for this character. So now you can see it looks much better already. We could go ahead and do this with the environment also. We can see how it looks. So change this to 16 bits. And now it's actually a bit more accurate than before. Again, we can zoom in on the environment here and maybe compare it. So this is 16 bits and this is compressed. So it's really up to you what you like the most. We can also try true color and compare that to 16 bits. Actually, I think I like true color on this quite a lot. Let's try and compare that to compressed. The difference is not big. I think the 16 bits here is just a bit too vibrant in its colors. I would like them to be just a bit washed out. So I think I'm just going to leave it at compressed actually, because the difference is not that big. But you can leave it at true color if you want to. Of course, compressed is going to be smaller in file size. Cool. So now we can go ahead and move on to point number 2, which is changing the arm pivot. Because right now when we hit play, you can see that our arm rotates towards our mouse cursor. But it does so with a wrong pivot. So let's have a look at our arm here. Zoom in on it. So right now the pivot is all the way back here, whereas the shoulder's rotational pivot, its anchor point, would maybe be more like here. So let's go ahead and change this. We can set up what is called a custom pivot. So let's select the astronaut sprite sheet again. And let's go ahead and open the sprite editor. Let's zoom in on the arm here. And instead of left pivot, we're going to do custom. And now we can adjust the X and the Y to center the pivot where we want. So we're simply going to take the X here and slide it over a bit and maybe bump up the Y a bit. So the X is going to be pretty much 0.18. And let's try 0.6 for the Y. That's actually pretty good. I think I'm going to do 5.7. That looks just perfect. So now that we've set that up, we can hit apply in the top right. Always remember to hit apply in this window. And then we can exit out. And now when we select the arm, you can see that it's centered where the shoulder actually is. So now we can again center this on the player to be where we like. And when we go in game now and rotate the arm, it looks a lot more realistic. It looks like it's actually rotating around a fixed shoulder. So that's really awesome. Maybe we want to push this over just a bit. There. See how this looks? Yeah, that's better. Cool. So now that we have this fixed, let's move on to point number 3, which is setting up the parallaxing with tiling. This is pretty much what we've been waiting for, right? So what we can do here is it's actually quite simple. So right now the problem is that when we turn on tiling under our GM object, or parallaxing, I'm sorry, you can see that once we get over here to where it starts to tile, the tiles don't move with each other. And the reason why is that when we are automatically spawning new tiles, they aren't added to the backgrounds list. So they won't actually be affected by the parallaxing script. And we could do this by adding them to the list through code. But instead of doing all that, it's really easier to just have groups of objects that will all move together. So instead of adding the background mountains blue, for example, directly here, adding the single object, we're going to create a container, which is just going to be an empty game object, where all our background mountains blue objects are going to be parented to. And this way, when we move the empty game object, they will all move at the same time. So let me just show you what I mean here. So right now you can see that this isn't working. Over here, they are overlapping. But what we're going to do is we're going to create an empty object. So Command Shift N or Control Shift N if you're on a Windows like me. And then we're going to name this background mountains blue. And then maybe we're going to change this to singular instead of plural. So we have a difference, so we can differentiate between the container and the single elements. And then we're going to just zero this out just for good practice. So make sure it's centered. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give this the same Z position as the background mountain blue. Because remember, our parallaxing script will parallax the objects depending on the Z value. So we have to make sure that this is the same Z value as the mountains blue in order for it to parallax correctly. So in order to do this, we're simply going to select the background mountain blue. And then we're going to copy over the Z value and paste it into the background mountains blue, our container. So now that they have the same Z position, we can simply parent the background mountain blue to the background mountains blue. Simply drag it under there. And now when we hit play, oh yeah, we also have to add the container here to the list. So instead of adding the background mountain blue, this single element, we're going to add the background mountains blue. So we're going to add the container there. We could also instead actually, let's just do, instead of mountains blue, it's simply too similar. So let's do background mountains blue container. It's a really long name. And then let's just change this back to mountains. I think this naming is going to be a little better. So instead of adding the background mountains blue, we're going to add the background mountains blue container. So just drag that on there to replace it. And now the blue background should actually tile correctly. So now when we jump over here, you can see that they are perfectly tiling. And the reason why this is working is because if we open up our parallaxing script in Mono Develop, so just double click it to open it up. And we're going to wait for it here. While it's opening, I can just quickly talk about the Unity editor changes. So one thing you will notice over here in the new version of Unity, which is, is it Unity 4.5? I'm going to get this wrong. What is it? It's, you can always view this by going to Edit, I believe. Nope. Window. Nope. Help. And yeah, about Unity, and you can view your version number here. So this is 4.5. And they've added the ability to sort things in the hierarchy, so you don't have to do this _GM methods anymore to get them in top of the hierarchy. You can simply drag them around and sort them yourselves. So that's pretty awesome. But anyway, let's go back into Mono Develop here, and that was not the script I wanted. I wanted the parallaxing script here. And what you will notice is that if we search for parent, no. It's not the parallaxing script we want. We want the tiling script. So let's find the tiling here. That's what I wanted. So if we look at the tiling here and we search for parent, you will notice that whenever we are creating a new tile or a new body, we are setting its parent to the same as the other tile. And that's why we can simply just parent it to the blue container, because all the other tiles will automatically be parented to the same object. And we can see this when we hit play. If we disable maximize on play and then hit play, we can see that if we run over here, when it creates a clone, it's also parented to the blue container. So now we can simply use the same methods for all the other tiling elements. So let's just go ahead and create a new object again. Let's zero this out. Let's call this background mountains purple container. And let's drag under the background mountains purple. Let's just drag this up here so we have all of the background, so we have all of the containers at the same place. And of course we also, we have to adjust the Z position of the container here. So first off, let's just drag out the object again so we can copy over the Z position. So take the background mountains purple, copy the Z position to the background mountains purple container, hit enter, and now we can parent it. So there we go. And then again in the GM object, instead of having the background mountains purple, we're going to drag in the background mountains purple container. Like this. Cool. Then we can do the last thing with the foreground dirt. So let's do Command Shift N. Let's rename this to foreground dirt container. Let's zero it out. Let's select the foreground dirt, copy over the Z position to the foreground dirt container, and let's parent the foreground dirt to the foreground dirt container. Let's drag it up here so we have them all in the same place. And then let's select the GM object and drag on the foreground dirt container. Cool. So now whenever you want to adjust the parallaxing of these elements, make sure to select the entire container and not the individual objects. Awesome. So now when we hit play, all of our elements are correctly tiling and parallaxing as needed. So that was awesome. So that was the third part here. Now we're going to go ahead and fix the collision. So right now when we hit play and we jump into a collider here and just keep on holding in the direction we are jumping here, you can see that we get stuck. And then when I release the key, it just waits a half a second or something and then it falls. And that's of course not something we want. We don't want to get stuck to objects this way. And the fix is actually quite simple. We're going to use what is called a physics, physics objects. It's a physics material here. So you're going to make a physics 2D material. So right click in the project pane, go to create physics 2D material. And let's rename this to player physics physmat. Let's do that, player physmat. And then the friction, we're going to change this to 0. So whenever you zero out the friction, you will make sure that we don't get stuck on walls. So now when we select our player, find the rigid body component, and then, no, actually not the rigid body, I mean the collider component, the box collider here. we can drag under the player physics. And we are going to do the same to the circle collider. So now that our player phys mat is selected in both the circle collider and the box collider, when we hit play, you will notice we behave just as before, but when I jump into a platform, we won't get stuck. And of course you can adjust this effect if you bump up the friction just a bit, something like 0.2. It will actually hang on completely. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you have to just zero this out completely, because the friction, it doesn't matter when you have a constant pull. So make sure the friction is set to 0 and that problem will be solved. Cool. So that was basically it for today's video. I know we didn't code in this one, but we got a lot of stuff done. And the game is now overall more enjoyable to play. It just makes more sense. So sometimes you just have to get the boring stuff done and just get the fixes out of the way so you can continue adding new stuff. In the next video, I think we'll delve into some character animation, and then hopefully we'll soon get on to some shooting. So that's going to be really awesome. So thanks for watching. Again, if you want more updates on when I post videos and what I'm working on and all that cool stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at BrackiesTweet, or find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Brackies. So that was basically it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.